didn't have to do it, right?
You did.
I did, so why did you do it? I said it was not necessary.
It was what was it? It was Thursday. He said, "Oh yeah, I'll be at City Hall all day," and so I go there first thing, you know, smile on my face, and they said, "Oh yeah, go back there," and they're in the back, and I go there and I knock on the door, and they're like, "Wait a second, the door is never usually closed," and I'm like, "Oh."
I thought for sure going at 8 a.m. nobody would show up, but no, Jamie showed up.
No calls that day, Jamie? No sales calls that day?
No, actually, so it's my new territory. I'm in what's called the Akron territory. So I have Akron, then I go to like Mansfield and Ashland. This is one of my Akron days. So I was able to duck in for a couple minutes before I had to be in Akron. So,
John, can I talk to you a minute?
Sure.
Want to come on out?
This north.
I wasn't at the planning commission.
Spam. So this north one will go
I'm going to tell
entirely
you an
to
interesting story.
Mr. Halter.
Oh,
okay.
And then this middle one will go entirely to the Bossler Family Trust. They own both sides.
Okay.
And there's some.
Oh, similar situation here. Now, are these? I'm trying to think. Are these two different homes?
No, so his garage is right here.
So the alley goes through the technically.
It's his driveway.
Okay, yeah.
So what's your challenge this week?
Then this
And then
is some trusts.
Mm-hmm.
The families from Massillon.
Okay.
I assume they're investment homes or
Mm-hmm.
family home. Bosslers.
I did ask all summer because we
Okay.
don't have enough time.
And then this one's a sort of crazy one.
Yeah.
So this side will go to the Humberts.
Okay.
Most of that side will go to Jelly, and then this little rectangle here at the back
Mm-hmm.
will go
For the
to.
first draft.
Oh, that's interesting. Why does it go? Oh, because they touch it.
They have this little L thing.
Before you guys come in.
I
I don't know how that ever came into being, but
Maybe they figured that was going to be their access. They'd have to drive back there. And who knows?
well, this used to be. As you can see, this used to be an alley, right?
Oh, that's true.
And you
Okay,
can
yeah.
actually see it on the map mural on the wall. These are all.
Ah, okay.
Like I can tell you, this was Walnut Alley.
When it talks about
Back in the
Walnut.
day.
Hey, there you go. All right, cool.
This was Chestnut.
And so what's happening over here? Isn't the schools, aren't they trying to pursue
I was
these
just
people
trying to
for their
dig into
homes,
some of
or
the
no?
days.
Or was that just the ones
Yes,
over
they
here?
are.
I find
but-
budget.
And that's why there's a little bit of hesitancy here, right?
Well, this
So
is your guys' first
we had
budget.
waited so long
Right?
because
Seems
the
like
school
it
was
can't be
talking to
true
Mr.
because
Halter.
it seems like
And
Okay.
they
you've
asked
been
us
here
to wait
forever,
and see if they could
but
get
you
a
haven't
deal.
I see.
They didn't make a deal.
Okay.
It
So,
just feels like it. You've just done
Contacted,
so much.
not Jeff,
I mean, you
but
do a lot of
their
things.
facilities
You do a lot of
person
things.
whose name is escaping me this morning.
Seems like you've been
You're
at
the
it.
facilities
Say
person at the
Brian.
school?
You know,
Mhm.
um,
Just working on some other.
and they were like, yeah,
Development.
we're not close with it.
opportunities,
To
some
a deal with anybody else
opportunities.
other than what we've already got, just go ahead and.
And hey, it works out. Maybe to make their property worth that much
Push
more,
the
you know?
finish line if anything.
So we sent,
Cool.
so these letters,
Yeah.
the generic one, we sent
Mhm.
to everybody on both sides of the street.
Okay.
And then there are.
Just to make them aware of what was happening.
Yeah,
so,
and then there are more specific ones that we sent to the people for
Perfect.
that alley specifically.
Nice. Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you for printing these off for me. I'll look at these later when I get home, so.
So the Bosslers,
Mm-hmm.
when we're doing it without a petition, the Bosslers said no because they don't want to pay property taxes. Mr. Halter said no because he's the one who thought we were trying to pull some sort of scheme to
Okay,
get the
yeah.
school to take his property.
Uh-huh.
And then Mrs. Humbert would sign a petition
Mhm.
because she wants to
Did you
build
find
a
out what?
fence on
Mayor Lowry?
property that's
And
right in
was
the
she the
alley.
one who
Find out
actually
when?
reached out
Well, I
initially?
got
She's who
cleared.
started
Yes.
this, yeah.
You got cleared.
The witness
Hey,
is,
Still no date yet? No date yet.
Okay.
so we're just moving forward
I called-
without a petition.
called
All
today.
right. And then, so now what will be the next process? So this will actually be on our committee? Then? Do we have to kick this to the
I
planning
think I'm on their
commission?
schedule.
We do not, but we do have to hold a public hearing.
Okay, so we'll
I
have a
think we're a
public hearing.
captive audience.
We're
So
a captive
October 15th
audience
is a long time
anymore.
away.
Yes.
We have to
You know,
do
with-
6 months,
with health
or 6
providers
weeks.
and
prior
Yeah.
to
And I
this.
think, yeah.
So if you look at, in the repository's legal section,
I'm
for
still
the next
getting
6
along
weeks.
though. Great.
there
Oh,
will
that's
be
gonna cost us a lot of money, so.
Yes, yes it will.
Thank you, repository, so. Cool. Well, I appreciate that.
I'm an old man. Yeah, I
Hi.
got more hair than I do.
Hey, how are you? Long time no see.
Those are the only pictures I had.
You know what, actually, so they had a couple more on Facebook that they shared this morning, so I'll show you. Hey, Daryl.
That was in 19,
There.
How
How are you? Hey, how are you? I'm all right. Good.
I got hospitalized for a month.
At least I think I am.
I had a doctor.
I'm happy.
How's it going?
Okay.
Mingle.
Pronounce Mingle or Mengele?
Change the name.
That was his name.
No way, that's,
But anyway, you know, so he was kind of my doctor, but I got a gastroenterologist involved, and he put me in high doses of prednisone. I mean, really high. And so when I pulled my hair, it would all come out. And I told my doctor, bald, and I got off that prednisone, my hair came back thicker than ever. So it's crazy how
it is.
that medication works, but yeah.
Yeah, I have to watch myself when I got this condition where you lose the pigment.
Oh, yeah, I see that.
So I got it up here.
Oh, do you really?
And then with losing my hair, you know, I actually have to resort to wearing a hat. You know what happens when you wear a hat your whole career.
So,
I scribble on your black and gray
He's
one.
looking at
Lose
me.
your hair.
Oh,
He's looking at me.
That's true.
okay.
That's why
I'm sorry, Dave.
You're welcome to rewrite my notes on here in not orange pen.
Because they wear a helmet or a hat all the time.
Okay, so we are going to postpone all, Gina's not here yet, okay.
That and
So we don't know
Vitalis.
that yet.
Is that right? You don't-
Vitalis.
Yeah.
Can't do it tonight. Wait,
Because it's all
I'll
alcohol.
special on,
Gotcha.
like the
Most,
29th,
most of
Okay.
the alcohol.
or later this week.
And
Okay, that's fine.
By the time he was 30,
Just put it on my,
think about
that's right here.
But he said that
So everything except Monticello.
Thank you.
When I was a kid, I had a hiney, you know.
Yeah.
I
They
can do
always
that.
used to call it a hiney, basically.
And it should be just a weed because nobody's told me that won't
And
be
you use
here.
witch wax.
Yeah, bushwhack, yeah, straight up.
I agree.
Straight up.
Daryl told me he won't be here on the 3rd
That
of
would be cool.
October, but that's a long way.
In the
from-
summertime, I had a long Princeton. That was the name of the haircut I got. From Avondale, over at Avondale,
How long do you have any questions?
Actually,
long Princeton.
You're
And all it
talking
was
about
was a short
time
haircut.
that won't be here.
Yes, I agree.
In October.
We'll discuss
I
that.
let it grow longer in the
Oh,
winter
yeah.
time, you know.
It'll be in the
little
newspaper
boy.
starting
Going to
Thursday.
High school.
I likely
I'm good with
will,
that.
not likely, I won't be here October 10th. I've got
I
a
always had
meeting
that
for
hiney,
work.
and so when I went in the military, it was easy to shave off, for sure.
Would you like to say?
They didn't have much to shave off.
Shoot, I gotta look that up, so, okay.
Sorry.
I had to shave off.
I meant to ask you about that.
There we go.
I had a mustache before I went in.
That was on.
My
You know,
favorite
I was
quote
at-
on Council
I was at the
72,
Bucyrus
I
Hospital,
went in,
when was that?
when
I think it was like last week or the week before. And
But I
just
made
as
sure
a
I
joke,
had
I
it on
pulled
my
it in the
lip.
clergy spot,
I
and
didn't
took
want
a
anything-
picture.
anything
And
shaped.
years ago, I paid $40 to get my living minister license
Yeah.
online, so I said, boy, this is really starting to pay off, so.
It works.
It's exactly what I said.
Hi.
But yeah, for an IT project.
Yes.
Okay, great.
There you go, I invited, so, I invited who was joking about it, I'm like,
Yes.
so,
You can print the little tag on.
American government.
it's actually a good idea.
Yeah.
It's a good
Thank you, Daryl.
My packet came with that. It came with clergy check.
In case we get busy.
Yeah.
Okay, so you got your Lord too. So,
Mackenzie Miller. All right.
I'm related,
Mackenzie Miller. And what's your Jackson?
from James the Fourth to Robert the Bruce, and I guess to him, but he's like, Robert the Bruce is the
That's a
Jackson
great
great
That's a good.
So maybe,
Aren't
because I had said,
Okay,
this,
I get to do the honors.
so I'm gonna hang it in my, I'm gonna build like a hanger for it, like a big wooden hanger for it. Like,
Is this an elected?
I don't know what sort of, I mean, if it's the Scottish Royal Crest or just the Royal Crest, whatever. And then it's on,
What's that?
Very good.
what was that? Well, that's exactly, yeah, there's the standard, the Royal Standard, or I don't know if they would, yes, so I don't know, but I'm gonna try and find somebody who can like laser that.
Oh, boy.
And, hang it up
Well,
my
good,
office.
good for you. There's a lot out there to learn.
Yeah.
All right, Mackenzie, well, welcome down. Okay, good luck with school this year.
Thank you.
Okay, dear.
Yes, I think so.
Oh, 4 hours you don't get back.
I want to
See,
say,
great minds think of
you get the honors of
It
being
is a
the
lot.
first
I mean,
I don't know if they
committee,
still do the
American history. of
Like, you have that, that's awesome.
For this school year, so congratulations. That's what I did a new thing for
Last
me.
time I was in Europe, I went to Toledo
Okay.
in Spain,
Yeah.
in the Middle made and exported a lot of weaponry. They have
Yeah.
I was just looking at the
high
time.
carbon
thinking it was about time to start.
Oh,
an arming sword that was hand forged in Toledo.
That's cool. That's cool.
That's the Spanish Royal Crescent engraved in it.
That's been there.
Oh, yeah.
Toledo? Spain, been there.
You have to show you this when I have it done, so.
It was great, but a lot of uphill walking.
Hi, Matt.
How's it going?
Beautiful though, I love the Alhambra.
Hey, boss. Yeah. When I was there, there was a big thing that they did was they.
I didn't think so, because I always hear back.
And then fire them.
Did it have the,
Or fire them so they would be black.
That was the one.
That was-
Video. You got carried away.
George,
Did you get it?
No.
Well, I bought
probably
some.
claim under, with the headlines.
At a grand time.
When,
we would actually-
when did you send?
My sword was a letter opener.
When did I send it? After the meeting last month.
No, I didn't get it.
No.
When I was in high
I
school.
didn't see it.
Or no, no, than that. It's more
But you
like
can always hit resend.
sixth,
Well, I-
seventh grade, we went to,
That's that phone number I was talking to you about. It said there
That
was,
should be.
said there was no voicemail set up on
Santa help.
Well,
That should be this phone.
if your Android phone doesn't have a voicemail, I do not know how to help you.
I'll work
it.
on that.
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know.
No, thank you. I
Yeah,
will
you
work on
bet.
it. That is this phone.
However, President Troy has had an Android phone for many years.
I have two, but I'm technically challenged, unfortunately.
I'm right there with you, I'm an Apple guy, and I struggle with this.
Yes, I'm absolutely an Apple guy. I would have gotten you all.
Step one
iPhones
for
if
the
our
Android
phones
phone
were
is setting up your
like-
voicemail.
What's that?
Step one is setting up your voicemail on the Android phone.
Yeah.
And then sometimes when it updates, it's like you have to set it up again, because it just
Well,
kind of
it's on this
refers.
phone.
Well,
I'll figure it out.
I mean, I can Google it if you want.
That's what I was gonna do. Google's my friend. YouTube is even better.
Yeah.
Show me which buttons to
Yeah.
push.
I know, but
Did you do things?
it says, it doesn't say don't touch.
It doesn't come with instructions.
When we're not speaking, can we mute it? Because I feel like we're getting picked up in, like, just even the papers and stuff. We just are trying to minimalize the excess noise.
If you remember to unmute yourself,
Of
but
course we are.
I'm not taking the flak if you're on mute. and-
Okay.
How do you know it's muted?
I
The
think
red
it's
light.
the red,
Like the red light's on right now.
yes.
Yeah.
Even, no. No, it doesn't.
oh, you're up on here. Start over, yeah. I get it. I get it.
I like this one. I can get out easy.
Never before I had need of a printer.
I was trying to think of an instance where we did this. You just pulled up on
I was up a little. This is down all the way.
Sorry.
I was gonna say.
Why let me start?
That's right.
Going into my ward. But I didn't invite you.
No, but I'm still mad about that house around the corner from me.
You know, the house right across the street, I went by that house. With the,
It was on some, but not much.
right across the street.
Okay, well, I'm gonna say you
Using the
should.
elevator, or with the,
Oh, that's.
yeah, that looks all right.
Well, somebody said, the guy said he would.
It looks fine. It looks
So
fine.
I'm out for a walk around the block today, I come around the corner and
Hi, young man, how are you?
And they were,
Sure.
there
Are
was
you here
one
for class also?
there last night
Well,
with
come on up, let's see
three
who you are.
police cars.
I'm Mayor Steve Wilder, nice to meet you.
Turn
Thanks
TV
for
off.
joining us tonight.
I'm sending.
And you're.
I don't know.
Very good.
Well, I don't
Let me
know
guess.
who owns it anymore, but there's a young
American
girl
government.
that-
I threw that to a business. Well, you have
I
Mackenzie,
don't
so
know.
it's nice to meet you. You know, if we get busy, I'll go ahead and sign this and then,
Jamie,
and then if we get too
How you
busy.
doing?
did you happen to get my email?
I don't know. Give me 1 second. I'll go back and check.
It'd have been last week.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I don't know what the hell went wrong.
Okay.
Okay, I'll resend.
I'm sorry?
I said I'll resend it.
Okay, thank
What
you.
year are you in? Great. Senior? That's great. Enjoy your senior year. Okay. All right. And, do you have an interest in government? Or, not about it? Okay. Well, there's a lot to think about. Well, thanks for joining us. Okay.
Yeah,
Are
no,
you
I
on
got you.
East Main
I got
or
that.
West?
Yeah, on the north side of the, on the corner.
They're all-
Okay.
But you
Well,
have
you're about there where Winston almost comes into. What's the name of that street that it's an A. Well, I'm 92, I'm 92 and I have my memory.
Wednesday, 17th, but yeah.
I never can remember. I get friends from that street.
So it's good enough. Yeah.
Goes into that street and then you're almost at East Maple.
Are you sure?
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Well,
Nothing.
We'll change it if somebody wants. Nobody asked me to change it. I didn't hear it, Joe.
This is the fourth next year.
Yeah.
There you go.
There it is.
It
jumped you.
It went into junk, so I apologize. I will look at it this evening.
Ah, Daryl, check your junk mail. That's where his went.
Tell you, if the video goes to the junk.
I wonder
3 a.m., Canton South.
if one of them got taken. Is junk the whole thing? Yeah, I'll check.
There's something in my turn.
There you go, there it is, there it is.
Oh, it wasn't.
Your 600.
Well, they saw you coming. Well, I know you go for 150. I know you go for.
You know, I buy those, Troy and I buy them, Psycho Bunny.
Beside here.
Okay. I'll be doggone. You know, and it's not like you and I haven't sent emails back
Yeah, it
and
should have
forth.
come right through.
Yeah, I know, it beats me. I figured you didn't get it because I didn't hear anything.
Go back to, you say you sent it Monday night?
Monday or Tuesday, I don't remember.
I didn't want anybody to speak no before.
I bet you there is a room over there that should have been reviewed as long as I have.
It's just a lot. It's just a lot.
Well, you did.
Thank you for the email.
What was the date on that, Jamie?
That was August 17th.
Okay.
August 17th? Yes. Beside here. Did you get my junk? Yeah, it was in my junk. I didn't even get it.
Okay.
You know, it's, oh, you're looking for it. Yeah, I remember. It's great because really, the cybersecurity we're paying for is working.
email from the residents goes to John.
We have whenever he would see it, he would text us, because he would get dinged if we clicked on it. So he would text and say, hey, spam email from so-and-so, don't open it. Kind of defeats the purpose, you know.
Dad.
I can almost see this outside.
Great sign.
Yeah, I'm sure he's gone.
You made your day, you made your
I think so. Although, I handed the phone to somebody else.
She's got the money. Mine has too.
Does anything on it? They should turn the kids this way, so they gotta go all the way.
Right, right.
The next council won't be, we should talk about it. It's gonna be rather much
Till today, and then we'll vote against the table until tomorrow.
That's true.
Actually,
Canal. We go to a canal meeting. Weigh in on that. Or I will hold you guys very public during that. It is the worst form of ordinances.
Yeah, certain people, either they want, you know,
Just
I,
go to a meeting.
no one in one month.
Every other, twice a month.
that's cool.
Very small. Yeah.
It's gotta be very
It's
small.
yeah.
They got like 2 lights, 3 lights, I mean. Yeah.
Maybe. If you go all the way around.
Yeah, you go around, yeah. But, you know, but that's doing a ward report is when we bring that up.
Yep. It's a long time.
Yeah, especially on Ward 4.
I've never ever had this.
Oh, did you already have it? What's that?
Please remember that since you guys are all very far away from me, elevate your voice.
I'm pretty good at that usually.
We had some quiet people last week.
Yeah.
Now,
You just have to yell at it.
do what I have to ask.
I mean, again, we're not supposed to have it anyway.
So, we have a Samsung washer and machine, which I would never recommend. We've had it, let me tell you, if you ever start asking for someone considering it, give them a call. And give it, under 4 towels, a physical repair unit. And it's like, let's just plug it and see what happens, because we try to check it, let's see for a while. And it works just fine, so. It's usually the best method of repairing electronics. Unplug it and plug it back.
Alright, then we're gonna get started. I now call to order the regular council meeting of August 22nd, 2022. The time is 7 p.m. Opening prayer, Jamie.
Let us pray. Lord, make us an instrument of your peace. Where uncivil words prevail, show us how to model love. Help us remember the God-given dignity of all and invite others to do the same. Show us how to build bridges and not walls, and see first what unites us rather than how we diverge. Let us seek to understand before asking to be understood. Give us listening hearts filled with empathy and compassion. May we be clear in sharing our own positions and respectful and civil in discussing those of others. Lord, help us to imitate your compassion and mercy. Make us instruments of your peace. Amen.
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you please call the roll?
Member Matheny?
Here.
Member McLeister?
Here.
Member Orr?
Here.
Member Stroya?
Here.
Member Volt?
Here.
Members Werren and Weyrick are absent, 5 present.
Motion to excuse members Weyrick and Werner.
Stroy seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have no items for consideration tonight. Public speaks at this time. Members of the public wishing to address City Council may do so. Each speaker will be granted 5 minutes. Please begin by stating your name and address. Your time and rules will be posted on the screen. This will serve as a warning. Anyone wishing to address the public tonight?
Sue Platt, 801 Briar. After regularly attending council meetings for the last 8 years, I feel compelled to speak against the pending change to public speaks. I have spoken at public speaks on such topics as putting a monthly meeting calendar on the agenda and distribution of a newsletter at public expense that failed to even mention an upcoming special election. Those topics were not on your official agenda, would not be allowed under the proposed safety rule. When I voice suggestions at public speaks, it is because I want my comments on the record. And I want for all to hear my words, no misunderstandings. Under newly proposed rules, it is likely that not all council members nor the press would be present. In the past, when I have spoken to council members on an informal basis, off the record, later it was said, "Oh, I don't remember you saying that," or "I was never told that." I want my comments on the record. As leaders of the city, it is your responsibility to enforce rules of public speaks, not limit the public's comments about your work or limit their exercise of free speech regarding public business. Limiting public comments to your agenda only is an unnecessary infringement on the public's rights to try to influence your future actions. I believe the public speaks rules were reviewed and revised by the city lawyer within the last few years. No more revisions are needed, as the current system has worked well for citizens for many years. It was suggested that there could be an availability session where the public could speak informally to 2 or 3 council members before the meeting, but the press would probably not be there, and comments would not be on the record. I can speak informally to council members through emails, texts, and phone calls. I don't need an availability session before a council meeting. I could have emailed this prepared speech to council members, but I want my comments on the record. I must admit, during the last council meeting, I was glad that I was wearing a mask, which forced me to keep my mouth shut. My initial reaction was one of anger at some of the statements made. However, upon reflection, I feel the emotion was not anger, but disappointment. Disappointment in council members who would even consider taking my voice and the voice of other residents. Limiting comments to your agenda and being off the record is taking my voice. I encourage you to maintain public speaks in its current format without limiting voters' opportunity to voice their opinion to you on the record. Thank you. How long did that take me?
You all right?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Larry Tripp, 1127 East Maple, North Canton. It is truly amazing what you learn after a cursory review of council minutes. I did a review for the current year, and found I could contradict every accusation that was thrown at me last week. Past minutes reflect constant interruption by councilpersons Werren and Revolt during public speaks. It is not the citizens, Osborne and Tripp, causing chaos during council meetings. It is the aforementioned councilpersons. Councilperson Stroya, I await your findings and reply on my alleged comments concerning patriotism and the $426,000 Bitzer Park grant. However, regarding last Monday's meeting, I find it challenging to understand why you allowed council members Orr and Werren to argue over attendance issue of some council members when the facts of attendance clearly speak for themselves per council records. On September 9, 2019, when I spoke on this problematic issue, I was labeled a sexist for doing so. Now, in 2022, you're allowing council to throw more labels to citizens. Councilmen Revolt and Werren have diagnosed citizens with Munchausen by proxy syndrome. We speakers have been called liars and described as purposely seeking to mislead citizens and intimidate them. As Mr. Revolt stated on January 24, 2022, this has to stop. I want to thank Mr. Wang for his timely and interesting article printed in the repository last week titled Residents Lash Out Against North Canton Council Rule Change to Limit Public Input. In the comments section of this article, a subscriber writes, and I quote, "Wow, gobsmacked. North Canton City Council just seemingly wipes out the First Amendment to the Constitution. You pay your taxes, obey the laws in North Canton, but cannot even exercise your most basic of rights in North Canton meetings in all things that pertain to North Canton. Forget the endless D versus R political BS argument here and wake up, citizens. There is something far more serious and potentially dangerous going on here in this matter." End quote. Is this individual onto something? Are we seeing an organized effort to push for more negative rules through council chambers? Are we now seeking the real push for their 4-year council terms? You, along with the other 6 members of council, had every opportunity to meet with me alone with a state representative mediator concerning happenings within these chamber walls. The council refused to allow this mediation. Why was that? Now this council wants to move forward with a rule change to eliminate public speaks as we know it today. Please table this discussion to allow for a more comprehensive review of citizen versus council member violation of council rules. You will be amazed at what you might find. I would be happy to assist in any way possible. Eliminations of one privilege leads to the elimination of other privileges, and eventually you have the potential for a wrecked democracy within North Canton. In 1918, did the forefathers of New Berlin foresee the demise of Germany some 20 years later when they voted to change the city's name from New Berlin to North Canton? Now under your rule change, are we seeing the demise of democratic freedoms of speech? I hope not. Thank you.
Anyone else wanting to address others?
Chuck Osborne, 307 Fairview Street Southeast, North Canton, Ohio. In December of 2001, when I was sworn in for my first term on North Canton City Council, I knew I would be guided well by individuals in the council office who were well trained and highly experienced. Mary Louise Biddle was the former council clerk at that time and had 16 years experience, having trained under former council clerk Marianne Wilson Barr, who herself retired with over 20 years' experience in the North Canton Council office. The council office at the same time also had Gail Kalpak as assistant council clerk, who had nearly 6 years' experience and who had her municipal clerk's certification from the Ohio Municipal Clerks Association. An individual's credentials for a position in the public or private sector are critical in any organization. It is not a personal attack when a citizen expresses an opinion on those credentials for the position one holds. I have learned a great deal about city government over the last 21 years. Last week in my unprepared remarks to this council body, I spoke about Resolution 10-2020, passed November 23rd, 2020, which revamped the council meeting rules that were previously adopted under Ordinance 33-2013. That resolution had its origins in previous committee meetings, the latest going back to October 5th, 2020. I asked, why were you undertaking discussion on changing council rules in a virtual meeting when members of council could not personally attend, nor could citizens? The minutes of that meeting are alarming, and the entire discussion was on how to dismantle a government that has functioned perfectly for more than 60 years. Why was there no advising attorney present for this discussion? At last week's council meeting, I spoke of the need to adopt council rules in ordinance form and was rebuffed. Given my time constraints for these remarks, I will speak about ordinances and resolutions. USlegal.com states, and I quote, a resolution deals with matters of a special or temporary nature, whereas an ordinance prescribes some permanent rule of conduct or government to continue in force until the ordinance is repealed. It is to be noted that an ordinance can be repealed only by another ordinance and not by resolution. As is the case with ordinances, two separate bodies of state law define the process of adopting or vetoing a resolution, end quote. In the 2020 meeting minutes, then Councilmember Stroya introduced rules that he described as streamlined. This mindset is quite unsettling. Then the current council clerk stated, we are really, in essence, just decodifying the existing rules of council. And the reason to do this is it gives the legislature full or sole control over its own legislative process. So when the rules of council are codified, that means if city council wanted to change its own internal processes, the mayor would theoretically have a veto, which would give him undue control over the legislative branch of government, end quote. Aren't checks and balances the backbone of our government for local, state, and federal levels of government? The council clerk continued stating, by decodifying the rules, we bring them completely under the authority of council, and we make them easier to change if council finds that something isn't working as they intended. Sounds like our council clerk wants our city council to function independently of any oversight. Rules of council should not be changed on a whim. Council rules are important legislation and require adoption in ordinance form. Past practices of North Canton city government, my 20 years of experience, my attorney with decades of municipal law experience, and the city's former 17-year council clerk have no doubt that council rules should be adopted in ordinance form. A resolution does not decodify a prior ordinance. An ordinance is repealed, not decodified. Council has been misinformed. The only way to repeal an ordinance is through another ordinance. What we see occurring in North Canton city government cannot continue. Maintain the rules of council outlined in ordinance number 33-2013 that is already on the books. With the few remaining seconds I have left, I again ask, where is my ward councilwoman? Why do we not ask their reason for absence? And then Mrs. Werren wants to argue about her attendance. Thank you.
Anyone else wanting to address public? Final call. Okay. Moving on to old business. have a motion and okay, we're gonna discuss Rule 9. This is where we're going to rename water, sewer, and rubbish as utilities. Is there any discussion on that tonight? Are there any concerns? Anything new? Okay. Looking for a motion and a second to adopt.
We amend.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And moving on to Rule 14 and 18. This would be to combine those two as read. Any discussion on this?
And combined into Rule 14, correct?
Yes, correct.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Please be more specific.
I'll move that we strike Rule 18 and combine the text into Rule 14. And that is my motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Council, do we want to have discussion on Rule 17 or Rule 37 tonight, which would be item C? If you wish to discuss that, I will entertain discussion. We do not. We are going to vote to table this.
I'll make a
Till-
motion that we postpone consideration of the rule changes.
Question.
Till we get response back from the attorneys.
There's a motion.
We have a
Second.
question. Hold on one
There's a
second.
question.
John?
So if we vote on tabling this at the next meeting of council the whole, will there be more discussion before we bring it back to council to vote on?
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
So we will table this till the next council the whole meeting, which is what, September 19th?
The 12th.
12th?
So we will vote to postpone this to the 12th. Go ahead.
The point John's getting at is, are we going to talk about it at a committee meeting,
Yes.
or will it come back
I-
next at a council meeting?
I think it should be discussed at a council the whole meeting before we even bring it to the council.
It's, as it sits right now, the motion is to bring it back to the council meeting on the 12th.
We haven't even seen anything written on this yet, and we're gonna go ahead and vote on it at the next council meeting. I think it needs to go to the council the whole meeting.
Okay.
You wanna withdraw your motion?
I do not agree with what you're saying, but
Dave brought the motion up.
I think the motion can stand. When we voted it out of committee.
We did.
We did not vote it out.
That was
of
at a
committee.
council meeting.
That was first discussed in a committee. Nope. Okay. I think the discussion can take place at the next council meeting. I think that city attorneys need to weigh in. I believe they have a couple of proposals to review. And at that point, we can take the information from the attorney, we can discuss the two proposals. We can either pass one or pass none at that time.
You could call a committee meeting before the council meeting.
Well, can we, or,
Yeah,
you know,
you
we
can.
have two meetings
Yeah, you
of
can.
committee the whole.
You can have a committee, the whole meeting, first, discuss it. If you want to proceed, then you've got it as an agenda item, the backup, in the follow-up meeting.
Does that follow the Roberts rules?
Yes. I don't think it does.
Okay. So you're proposing a committee of the whole, essentially a double up
Double
on
up.
the 12th. I mean, council, is, you know, welcome to amend their meetings calendar. This will require at least 2 more votes. 'Cause last session, we did not make a motion to consider. So this will require at least 2 more discussions.
I just think we should, at this next scheduled committee of the whole meeting, be able to discuss this before it comes to council. We haven't heard from the lawyers yet. We don't know what they're gonna propose, and it's all gonna be already passed on the first, you know, I don't see it.
so if on the 12th we have a committee of the whole meeting followed by a council meeting, you'd be okay with that?
No, because we're doubling up on meetings, and I don't really feel we should double up on meetings.
I didn't think that we discussed rules of council at committee meetings. I thought they were actually traditionally done at council meetings. Daryl, I mean, is that how they've been done in the past? I'm sorry?
That's how we've done it.
Yeah.
That is how we've done it in the past.
My
memory may be foggy, however.
Right.
Well, you heard what I have to say.
We're gonna have more than one reading of this anyway.
Yeah, but the first reading, we're gonna vote on something we don't even
We've
know what the law
already
is.
had a reading on it.
We had a reading on it, but we
Yeah,
didn't
we
even
might
get,
not. That's
we didn't
not
even have
necessarily
the,
true.
we didn't even
It's on the
have the,
calendar tonight, we're not voting on it tonight.
but we haven't even heard what legal has to say about this.
Okay?
I think we're making a mistake.
What part is the mistake?
I think we should discuss this. We've heard all negative about this public speaks from our public speaks people. We've heard no positive. My phone's been ringing off the hook with people. You had said your phone has been ringing off. I've
You
heard,
haven't had anybody speak positively about
no,
this?
I have not.
All right.
You know,
John, just a question. You voted on items 7A and 7B this evening, correct?
yes, I did.
Those were not in a committee of the whole meeting either. We discussed that at a council meeting as well. And I think to the point that President Stroy is making, we are gonna discuss this multiple times. We will have time to weigh in. I've gotten a few phone calls myself. They've been mixed. They haven't been necessarily one way or the other, for what that's worth. But I mean, again, we're gonna have plenty of time to have input from the public if we're gonna have 2 readings on this. So I don't know why we would, for me, I don't know why we would bring this up at a committee of the whole meeting when that's not traditionally what we do with rule changes for rules of council. Just my thought.
Okay.
The rules of council were not part of the committee of the whole meeting. They were discussed only in the council meeting. And I believe that we can discuss them. Do the rules require 3 votes? It's not an ordinance. It's merely a rule change.
The rules as written right now require 2 votes to amend.
2 votes.
So for example, the change to Rule 9, last week you all voted to consider it.
Yes.
And then this week you voted yay or nay to adopt it. So last week, for this specific rule change, you all postponed and asked me to get drafts together, and
Yes.
those haven't come back yet from legal counsel. So it needs at least a motion to consider
Right.
before it
So my
gets a
motion
final
stands,
vote.
we can discuss this in the council, the next council meeting, a full discussion, and decide whether or not we're going to move it forward to consideration.
Yes. A second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. Moving on to new business. Okay, so I have a motion to postpone item 8A.
Revolt moves.
Let me rephrase that. Can I have a motion to postpone ordinance 56-2022?
Revolt moves.
All in favor?
Vote we need a second.
Sorry.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Looking at 8B, can I have a motion to postpone item 57-2022?
Revolt moves.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can I have a motion to postpone ordinance 58-2022?
Revolt moves postponement of 5822.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can I have a motion and a second to read by title only ordinance 59-2022?
Revolt moves.
Story seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Ben?
An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of North Canton to release AMC Land Company Limited from performance bond obligations established by a commercial bond as authorized by ordinance 52-2021.
Okay, we discussed this in committee last, or in regular council meeting last week. They've achieved their obligations, and I move that we approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can I have a motion and a second to read by title only ordinance 60-2022?
Revolt moves.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Ben?
An ordinance authorizing the mayor of the city of North Canton to enter into an agreement with AMC Land Company Limited, thereby accepting its maintenance bond to guarantee certain maintenance improvements in the Monticello Phase 8 development.
Okay, this would be the one that establishes a new maintenance bond, and the collateral is the plat in Monticello, I believe, as well, for that. Nothing new here. Any discussion on that?
A lot, not plat.
Oh, lot?
A lot is the collateral. You said the plat. is the
That's,
collateral.
oh,
It's the lot.
gotcha, okay.
Have we ever done this in the past?
We currently hold a bond right now from the developer of Sanctuary
Okay.
that is secured by mortgage.
And the lot is more than what it
Yeah.
Yes.
is, correct?
Okay. Looking for a motion and a second for that.
Revolt moves.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Can I have a motion to postpone ordinance 61-2022?
Revolt moves postpone of 61-22.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And can I have a motion to postpone ordinance 62-2022?
Revolt moves postpone of 62-22.
All in, okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Department reports. Deputy Director. No. Let's go with Patrick.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just one item I just keep on everybody's radar, that should be getting letters soon, I'd say the next week or two, on the natural gas aggregation program. So as you recall, just your quick history, that the provider that we had gone with last year, they filed bankruptcy. Had been a fair operator up till that point, I guess, but so we had to go back in and restart this program. So those that were on it have been kind of kicked over to the Dominion default position. They're under the state law, they're required to accept residents into their default program, and they can stay there indefinitely, or until the resident finds another program of their own choosing, or they wait for the city's aggregate program to come back. So I'm sure have all been following the all the issues with natural gas around the world and how that affects natural gas prices here. And I think the rate, one of the rates I just saw this morning was 9.63 an MCF. The city bid theirs out a couple months back. I had set a target price to get to, and if we could hit that price, we would execute it. And that first price was $4.95. Never got to $4.95. We got close. So I bumped it up a little bit to $5.25 and held there, and we got that. So our rate's going to be $5.25, and that's on a fixed rate, cannot change, for 4 years. So I felt that was the best option for residents, I think, given the turmoil that we're seeing in the natural gas market because of geopolitical conflicts and the like. They're already, rationing natural gas in Europe, and so I think that this will be a good thing for residents. Those of you that were in the program before, you'll have the ability to get in it, and if you don't want to get in it, you can opt out. You can get in, and if you opt out later, there's no penalty to get out. So it's one of the good things. So anyway, that word will be going forward here from the consultant, beginning that word out of who it is and all the stuff, and we'll be glad to help any resident understand what they're looking at and that kind of thing. So, thank you.
Thank you. Mayor?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I just want to bring a little bit of good news. I had the opportunity on August the 18th to visit a celebration, a sort for Compassion Delivered. It was their 5th anniversary of delivering meals to terminally ill citizens in our community or life-threatening illnesses. They've delivered over 20,000 meals in the last 5 years since they were formed. And those meals some of those meals do get delivered to our citizens here in North Canton. I just want to make a council aware of that, of the good work that they're doing through volunteers and donors and corporate sponsorship. 20,000 meals in 5 years that they've been taking care of citizens in our community. And it was an honor and pleasure to present them a proclamation recognizing them for that. And I just want to share a bit of good news that is happening for our community. With everything else that's going on in the world, we still have caregiving in our community. So thank you for that moment to share with the City Council and our citizens here today.
All right, thank you. Gina?
I have no report.
Wayne?
No, I have no report, thank you.
That's all you sitting over there. Let's go on to, let's go with Ben. Sorry, you're hiding behind monitors.
We got mail today from the Board of Elections. Our charter amendments have been assigned issue numbers. They will be issues 12, 13, and 14. At this point, we need to review and approve ballot language. There was at least one issue that I found that will need to get addressed where they transposed 2 numbers. So we've been approved. We'll be on the ballot.
Nice. Okay. Thank you. Let's go with department report, council reports. Jamie.
All right, thank you very much. Actually, just had one item that I'd like to share is yesterday, I actually had the opportunity to join the mayor for the preview for the North Canton Youth Football League, and it was kind of an interesting how it came to be. My daughter's a cheerleader, and I think I was joking with the Pierponts about how we were going to be there all afternoon, and then there was a possibility that the mayor wasn't going to be there. And I said, well, I'll step in. Well, he ended up being there, and they passed me the microphone anyway. So, I do want to share. I'm a guy who loves quotes, and I think this is something that is meaningful to me. I hope it was meaningful to the kids as I shared with them, as of course they're starting school today, to not only carry with them on the field but also in the classroom. But I certainly carry this with my job as well. So, there's a quote by famous football coach Lou Holtz. Ability is what you're capable of doing. Motivation determines what you do. Attitude determines how well you do it. So it was meaningful to me. Hope maybe you guys find some meaning in that as well and carry that with you. And that's the end of my report. Actually, I will throw in there, if you see Holly and Chris, they do a fantastic job with that group and all the other coaches and the advisors. So say thank you to them for a well-run program. So that's the end of the report.
Thank you, Jamie. David?
Okay. In terms of personnel and safety, this past week there was a congratulatory meeting held, and one of the ways that you can tell a quality organization or government entity is by length of service within its ranks and its members. And this past week, Chief Kemp was recognized for 25 years of service in the North Canton Police Department, and I think that's a testimony of his commitment and service and moving up through the ranks here at North Canton. And I just wanted to say congratulations to him. I know he's not present here tonight, but pass my congratulations on to him and the rest of the crew.
Will do. All right, moving on to Ward 4, John.
Ward 4, a lot of things happening in the ward. Thank you to the administration. Glenwood looks really nice. It's, I think, just about complete. I've had a few people call me up and say thank you. They weren't left out of their house or anything of that nature, which is great. I fielded a lot of phone calls about our public speaks possible changing. And I addressed those, invited people into council, and, you know, while you still have it, that's the way we go, you might as well use it. Most of them just feel it's, they're taking away their freedom of speech. We have a couple things. First of all, thank you, Jamie, and thank you, Mayor, for handling the football last night, the preview. That's always it's one of the top things in the city. It draws a lot of people out there, and I think they have over 300 kids participating, which is great, which is a great thing. That's about all, but thank you for everything you guys do.
All right, thank you, John. Daryl?
Great. Mrs. Platt, I appreciate your comments tonight. Let me offer and reiterate a couple of key points. First of all, is that 40 years ago when I started here in this council, and I may have said this before, public speaks was unlimited. Stood at the microphone, stated your name, address, and the nature of business. As long as you weren't redundant, the floor was yours. Today, we're down to 5 minutes, and I've got an armed police officer here. Why is that? I think you did a nice job talking about your voice and the importance of it. And frankly, I wouldn't be here had I not gone to public speaks back in '16. But I think also, in fairness, and I challenge some others, I think you've basically danced around the issue at hand. I think all of us in this room know what the issue is. And it's public speaks is, in my view, the trigger for other types of behavior that are simply unacceptable. And I can go into those at greater length if we need to, but tonight might not be the night. But I don't think anybody's, in a perfect world, I'd go back to 1981.
Why?
Because you can speak as long as you want. And I didn't need a police officer here to maintain order. It's just unfortunate we're here where we are. And the question is, how did we get here? So I'll await an answer from someone in the audience if they've got an insight into that. But frankly, the issue isn't on this side of the table. Mr. Tripp made comment about some comments I made. And I would simply point out that there is a term in English called a simile. Uses the words like or as. And I describe some of the conduct here around this room like political Munchausen's by proxy, where you're here to stir the pot, to gratify yourself. It's a simple thing. Simile, you can look it up. It's used. It's an English tool of comparison. As far as Mr. Osborne, he spoke eloquently tonight about our rules. The fact of the matter is, once again, I think the facts run in a different direction. The first says that all the rules have to be, he said, we have to have an ordinance. We do not. The sample rules of council proliferated by the Ohio Municipal Clerks Association. Imagine that. The Clerks Association own rules do not require codification. The rules don't exist beyond the term of the council. They expired. Question, repealing it, they're done. And they can be replaced either an ordinance or a resolution or a vote. All cities do it.
All cities have codified their ordinances, their rules of council. All cities. Canton doesn't. Canal Fulton doesn't. Alliance doesn't. Misstatement of fact. I'm not sure that that helps our deliberation when opinion runs against fact. Or people simply misunderstand the use of the English language. That's my report.
All right. You dare?
Oh, and let me say this. I even got better than calls. The people who collared me on the street and at the Y support the council's position to amend the rules. I had 2 emails, didn't get a response back after I explained the situation. Let me just wrap up with this. This will be it. Sue, I think what we have here, as I've said before, this is an issue of public safety. I won't go into the details tonight. I don't want to embarrass anyone. But again, the fact of the matter that we must have an armed officer and a strategy says something about the level of discourse. For a town of 17,500 people, that is really unfortunate. That gentleman should be in his cruiser on our streets.
One quick question, President.
Go on.
We live in a different society today. Is there not safety officers and police officers in our schools?
John, I would argue, fair question, I would argue that the reason that we have safety officers in the school is the same reason we have them here. Because there is a concern about behavior.
Or safety? The
Well,
safety
it is the,
because of the behavior.
let me ask you a question now,
Okay.
and I don't want to put you on the spot here. Do you want me to dot the i's and cross the t's about that behavior?
No.
Thank you. I do not care to do it at this time.
No. But we have police officers in places today that we didn't have 20 years ago, 10 years ago.
Of course.
Even 5 years
Because
ago.
we have school shootings, and candidly, we have city council shootings as well.
Exactly.
Here's my point, though. There is nothing on an agenda, frankly, if you look at tonight's, for example, short of the public speaks, it's even remotely controversial.
No.
And again, part of the problem is up here is that we have this sort of inability to determine what the facts are. And my appeal is this: get it right, get the facts, and that becomes the basis for good decisions.
Right.
That's it. Don't misrepresent what's going on.
Well said.
I mean,
But, you know,
I get it.
President,
Okay. Yep.
just a point of order.
Sure.
We have 2 citizens here, young people from Jackson High School. Would it be permitted to allow them to have conversation on this topic?
We put that under old
Sure.
new business, last call for business.
What, last call for business?
Last call for business.
Excuse me, I was out of order.
Final call for new business.
Okay.
Final call. Jackson High School.
It might be enjoyable to hear what our young people have a point of view.
Podium, name and address.
Mackenzie Miller, 721 Cayuga Street, Maslin, Ohio. I'm not from here. I'm from Maslin. This is my first time being at one of these meetings, but I'm agreeing with both sides of this. Because when we were in 7th grade, we had a school shooting and we went through that, and that caused a lot of panic for everybody. So I can see why we have police officers in our school, and thank you for your service. My family, military police, safety's a big thing, and after that big thing happened, it's good to have that because we still have that panic in our schools.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
Young man, your name and address?
Nathan Hugg, 6260 Wales Avenue, North Massillon, Ohio. I'm gonna have to agree with her. I agree on both sides. It's just that, like, ever since I'm bringing up an old topic, but like the Columbine shooting of a high school, you know, that's when safety and everything kind of changed. I know you guys are bringing up that, you know, when did things become where we need an officer everywhere? It's just the fact that people nowadays are becoming more violent, and you know, with the fact of, even though this is really a topic, you can go into any store and just pretty much buy a weapon. Nowadays, safety is becoming more of a hazard, and which is why we need this officer here. Which is thank you for your service.
Thank you.
And I mean, anything could happen. Like she said, like, you know, 7th grade, we were in school, everything was fine. Though we could have been a shooting. It's just the fact of nowadays we need more protection because we don't know what could happen.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. My mom was a music teacher at Jackson, and she wasn't there that day, but I was in a meeting in Texas for work, and
My
it was a
uncle's
little
the
bit of panic.
teacher at the middle school, so he's the one that saved me from when we heard the drill going off.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for holding a respectful tone, everybody, today. I am thankful. Baker Court Street, if you have been down, that's the alley behind that intersects the Y. What is that? Coming down Bitzer, right?
Bitzer.
Yeah.
Is there backup?
Phenomenal, yeah.
Mhm.
If you haven't been down that, what an amazing job.
Proof of
That's-
concept,
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Right?
I mean, dead on.
all in-house.
Yeah.
just for the students and those who aren't here, the administration proposed to council last year in the budget the purchase of some fairly expensive equipment to be used for spot paving. Just for people who aren't familiar with the alley, because I park next to it at the Y, our crew ground out the alley and then repaved it with the equipment that we had purchased. And as the team said, this was a learning experience. It looked just as good as the full-time professionals do. And it actually improved the appearance of the alley a bit too, which was a little rough.
Yeah.
So Patrick, kudos to the crew who did it. Look,
So what did that save us in money? If we would have had to go to an outside contractor, you would say?
Had we contracted that out, and that'll be the difficult thing when doing these alleys, is finding somebody that wants to do it. Because sometimes they're in tight places. Baker Court was not necessarily a tight place, but you can imagine some of the shorter alleys that it could be problematic to even get a contractor to want to do it, and then they want to do it, then the price is significantly higher. But if we were to bid Baker Court out, that's probably a $40,000 job. Grind it and repave it. So that's just one of a couple that we've done, and we're going to continue to do more yet this year. So I appreciate the council doing that, and then we, as part of that cleanup, had our code enforcement look at that alley, and there were a number of properties that were not in compliance, and so they got into compliance, and they were happy about it at the end of it because they got a new alley out of it, and they appreciate the spruce up. So thanks to council for that.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I did want to mention thank you to Officer Kemp, 25 years of service. It just doesn't seem that old, does it? I don't know. I'd make fun of him more if he was here. Maybe just realize or relay our sentiments and
I'll pass it along.
maybe make a joke of some sort. Really, that's all I've got. by support local, and, what's that?
We need to mention meetings.
Yes, review the meetings calendars. So on the 29th, we have no meeting. On September 5th, Labor Day, no meeting. Coming back to September 12th, we'll have a regular city council meeting. September 19th, we'll have committee of the whole meeting, and September 26th, we'll have a regular council meeting. That being said, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Give me a second.
Yeah.
Oh, second one.
Second.
Getting a little ahead of myself.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Adjourned.